In this video, we shall structuralism. Okay. Now let's begin. I want you to have a look at this painting by Pablo Picasso. Now, this painting, Guernica, this painting, did you understand anything from this painting? I'm pretty sure that you wouldn't have understood it. Now, let me tell you what this painting is about. This painting is about a Spanish civil war, and Pablo Picasso has tried to depict the horror of war in the painting Guernica. Now, it is because I told you about told you the context of the painting that you understood what the painting is or what the painting is about. Now, so structuralism is a movement that began in France in the 1950s. Yes, the the post-war period, and it was closely associated with the Russian formalists and the Polish structuralists, which is based on stylistics. Now, structuralism again is a departure from humanism, and you know what humanism is. Humanism is all about man being the center, and when it comes to structuralism, for the structuralists, everything is to do with the structure. Human language is to do with the structure. Everything that they see around is to do with the structure. Everything has a structure. So it was indeed a big revolution after humanism, because structuralism, with humanism, it centered on humans, whereas with the coming of structuralism, it decentered the humans, and humans became not the soul, not everything, not the important ones. To them, everything is a structure. Our life, our food, our travel, our habits, everything that we see around, our thoughts, everything is based on structure. Now, if you look at your human body, your tooth, the teeth, your eyes, your nose, your heart, your liver, everything, they can be taken as components, right? They can be called components. Say, let's assume that we call them components, okay? And they have a structure of their own. When do they make sense? If you take your liver alone or your heart alone, does it make sense? Or does it gain any importance? No. It gains importance when it is associated with your body, when it becomes an integrated part of your body. So, these components are subservient to the whole, that is your human body. What is subservient? Subservient means inferior, lacks importance. So that's one thing that you have to remember about structure. Okay, just think that, or just bear this in mind, that the components or the constituent parts, I'll be coming to it, I'm just explaining, I've only started explaining the constituent parts, that is small parts, smaller ones, they are subservient to the whole, to a large structure. Another example would be, see, when we go to college or school or shopping, to our shopping, when we go out, we see a lot of buildings, right? Now, what do we call these buildings? We call them a structure. These buildings are made up of what? These buildings are made up of piles of bricks and cement and sand and steel and so many things, so many components, right? Now, do we call bricks, if you see bricks lying there, do we call them a structure? Do we call sacks of cement kept there, do we call them a structure? No, we don't. So they are called constituent parts. They are called the components. When they come together, they form a structure. So a structure can be understood only in terms of a big or a larger section or a larger entity. Now let's come back to this painting, Picasso's painting. When you saw the painting, you saw various figures. You saw the canvas, the figures, the colors, right? They are again constituent parts. Okay? They made sense to you only when I told you of the painter and the context of the painting. So you understood the painting in terms of a larger section, the painter and the context. Clear? So slowly, if you look at it, you understand that there is a small deviation from what the formalist has suggested. For the formalist, everything is the form. Everything is within the text, nothing outside the text. Here you understand that we are slowly moving. As we move closer and closer to the text, the structuralists, according to the structuralists, as we move closer and closer to the text, we find that we are moving away and further away and away from the text. According to the formalists, everything is inside the text. A text is autotelic. But to the structuralists, according to them, whatever the structure is, it can be understood only from a larger structure. Okay? Alright. Now, take another example. Doors and windows. If you are to remove from a building, okay, from a building, if you are to take the doors and windows alone, pluck them, pull them out, not pluck them, sorry, pull them out, rip them out and place it outside, do they make any relevance? No. But when they were put inside the building, when they were fixed in the building, it made sense. It became a structure, right? So these doors and windows, when do they gain importance? When do they become relevant? These constituent parts or these components, they become important when they are seen from a larger angle. That is the building. Okay, I want you to bear few things in mind. One, in a structure, the constituent parts are always subservient to the whole. The constituent parts means, as I gave you the example, the examples would be your teeth, your eyes, your heart, your liver. They are the constituent parts. Or the window, or the door, or the pile of bricks. They are the constituent parts. They are subservient, lacks importance, they are inferior to what? To the whole structure. Your body or the building is the whole. So one point that you have to bear in mind is this. The second point is that each constituent parts gain meaning and relevance only through its relation with other constituent parts of the structure. What does that mean? To understand a window, you understand it because a window is a window, not a door. Right? A bedroom, you understand a bedroom because it is a bedroom and it is not a bathroom. Right? You understand your eyes in relation to your ears. Your eyes are your eyes, not your ears. They are different. So, how do you understand? You understand these constituent parts gain meaning and relevance only through their relation to other constituent parts of a structure. Okay? As we said from the above example of Picasso, every entity in any situation has no significance by itself and is in fact determined by other entities in that situation. The figures in the painting, the Spanish Civil War, the pile of bricks, the cement, the sand, building, figures in the painting, the canvas, the colors, the Spanish Civil War, the painter. Okay, so every entity in any situation has no significance of its own and is in fact determined by other entities in the situation. For example, the doors of the building. The doors become significant only in terms of other components, other constituent parts, the windows, the rooms, yes, the floor, the ceiling, the wall, and so on. And all these are dependent on what? They are subservient to the whole, that is the building. They are on its own does not have any significance. They have a significance only when they are taken, or when the whole building is taken into consideration. All right. So this structure or this pattern exists even in our thoughts. Now I'm coming to structuralism. I've just explained certain things that you have to bear in mind before getting to structuralism. What a constituent part is, what components or the constituent parts mean, and what a structure is, and what it is meant by the whole. Okay. Now, so this structure or this pattern exists even in our thoughts. When we understand the structure of a particular thing, we understand things better. For example, you are a student of St. Joseph's College, right? Yeah, and me as a teacher of St. Joseph's College. We have our existence of our own, right? We are a constituent part of St. Joseph College, right? We have an existence of our own. But when we are to be called by, or when we are to be known as a student of St. Joseph's College or a staff of St. Joseph's College, when we need to gain relevance, we can be understood only by taking into consideration the whole, that is the college as such, St. Joseph's College. So St. Joseph's College is the whole, and you as a student and me as a teacher or the staff becomes the constituent part, and we are subservient to the whole, which means the college. These constituent parts, they become relevant only or they don't have any significance by itself and is determined by other entities like you and me and the other staff, the non-teaching and the non-teaching staff. Okay. So the essence of structure is that things cannot be understood in isolation. They have to be seen from a larger structure in which they become a part of. So in literature, it means every text follows a general pattern, and thus we can have general conclusions both of the individual works and the system from which it has emerged. That is, when we analyze the text like the formalist, but different from them as well, we look at the structures that make up this text. The structures that constitute the text, and thus we draw conclusion related to the individual work. So being a structuralist, one would try to locate the structure in every text. Only by doing so, or identifying the structure of the text, can we be able to understand the text as such. See, the formalist said nothing exists outside the text. Everything is in the text. To them, every word, figures of speech, and so on was everything to them. But the structuralists differed. According to the structuralists, the structure of the text is more important. Now, what is the structure of the text? The pattern in which language is structured. The pattern in which it is written. For example, the genre, they are speaking about the genre of the text. For instance, To My Wife is a sonnet by Philip Larkin. Then you have John Donne's sonnets. You can take Shakespeare's sonnets. And now when you analyze these poems, what you do is you first look at the structure of the poem or the structure of the sonnet. The genre that it constitutes. It is a part of sonnets, and a sonnet is therefore different from what? Different from an epic. It is different from a lament. It is different from an ode. Okay, it has 14 lines. It has a rhyme scheme. It has two different types of sonnets, Petrarchan sonnet and the Shakespearean sonnet. And how again Shakespearean sonnet slightly changes or is different from Spenserian sonnet. Thus we understand the structure. The formalists, to them, these things were not important. They were out of, or they were things that mattered very little to them, or in fact not at all. Now, the most important person associated with structuralism is Ferdinand De Sisor. He famously observes in language, quote, in language there are only differences without positive terms, unquote. It is there in your textbook, page 57, second paragraph. If you look at language, the basic unit of language are words. Words forms phrases. Phrases forms sentences. Sentences forms what? Paragraphs, and paragraphs eventually forms literature. So the whole thing, if you look at it, in order to understand a word, you need to understand the structure of the word. Okay. Now, Saussure gave importance to the concept that in fact revolutionized our perception of language. The first concept that he gave was that of sign. Okay. Now, what is sign? Sign is any word that constitutes or that signifies something. According to Saussure, a sign is composed of a signifier and signified. Whenever I utter the word tree, if you look at the slide, whenever I utter the word tree, this word is going to create certain image of a tree in my mind or in your mind, right? In your brain, that is. Thus, the image it creates in your brain is the signified, and the sound pattern is the signifier, tree. When I say tree, the sound that it creates, the sound pattern is the signifier, and the image that it creates in your mind, that is the signified, the concept. Suppose I say red, I can signify a lot of things, a lot of concepts like love, hatred, violence, traffic light, danger. All these are associated with the color red. right? So all these are signified in our mind. To Sisor, anything you write or anything you say, the basic structure is the word. The center is the word. Any word you speak or write is a sign, and it is composed of two parts: the signifier, which is the word, and the signified, that is the concept. So now the relationship, next what Sisor tries to tell you is that the relationship between the signifier and the signified is arbitrary. That is, the relationship between the word and the meaning of the word is arbitrary. Now what is arbitrary? Arbitrary means it is not natural. It is a social construct. It is something that has happened because a community has named it so. They had named it perhaps so that they could have a collective, or they could have a name for a collective, collectively have a particular name for a particular object. So you have studied that in language and linguistics, I presume, in the first beginning, that language is arbitrary. In other words, there is no logical relationship between a word and what it stands for. That is, its relationship is arbitrary. It is a culturally constructed one. Like for instance, there is a child is taught from the beginning, is shown a cow and is taught from the beginning to understand it as a horse. She's shown a cow and is taught that it is a horse. She learns it as a horse. Whenever she looks at the cow, she learns it as a horse. Okay, or she calls it as horse. So when the word horse is uttered to her, the picture that comes to her mind is that of a cow. Okay, so the word, the signifier is the horse, and the signified is whatever image it comes to her because she is taught by it. Here the child is taught that the horse, looking at the cow, the child is taught that it is a horse. So whenever the word horse is uttered, the child understands it as a cow. The concept or the image of a cow comes to her mind. So this proves that there is no relationship between the signifier and the signified. It is a cultural construct. It is constructed by a community. Who named it a horse? Somebody named it a horse, and therefore the whole community names that particular animal a horse. Who named it a cow? A community named it a cow, and therefore everybody in that community calls it a cow. Okay, another example to prove that the language is arbitrary would be the word tree. If you look at the word tree, the same object has different names in different languages. It is called maram in Malayalam, right? It is called paid in Hindi. Okay, and why do you think, why is it so? Yeah, they are different. That is because in a particular community, the Malayalis, the Malayalam community or the Malayali community, has somebody from the community long back, we don't even know, has decided or had decided to name it Maram, and therefore that community which shares the same language, who is able to understand Malayalam, will be able to understand it as Maram. Okay, and a particular community, that is a Hindi, the people who speak Hindi, they decide to name it as paid. In English, the English people decide to name it as tree, and that is why we have different names for the same object in different languages. If the languages, or if the relationship between the signifier and the signified was natural, if it was natural and not arbitrary, then we would have had only one language in this world. Okay, but that is not the case. It is arbitrary. It is a cultural construct. Okay, it is a culturally constructed one. He also states that, he further states that the sign is, the meaning of the sign is also arbitrary. Now here, earlier we said that the relationship between the signifier and the signified is arbitrary. Here he goes to the extent, or he further goes on to add that the meaning is also arbitrary. So it is not only the relationship but the meaning also. Now what does he mean by that? So when I say tree, the tree to Rumeysa would be a beautiful watercolor that, or the picture of a tree that she painted the other day. Or to Basneen Huda, it would be a beautiful poem, a poem by Keats, or even a poem that she herself has written. To Hiba, it would be the tree, the walnut tree, or the tree, the walnut tree in her backyard that would give her walnuts, and which she can decorate on her cake. Yes, she's a baker and she loves baking cake. So to Hiba, it would be the tree that gives her ample lot of, or baskets of walnuts. To Sharon, it would be his favorite mango tree. To Abin, it would be the jackfruit tree. Okay, so to different people, to Farsana, she would be thinking that thinking in a different way. To her, it would be trees as the lungs of the earth. Yes, and she would be thinking of it from the environment point of view. So the concept of the tree, though the concept of the tree remains the same, the image, that is, the concept would be a woody structure, or a woody structure with with a big trunk and lots of branches and fruits or flowers on it. That is the concept. The concept would be the same, but the image or the meaning it gives you will be different. Two concepts, what are they? The first one, in a sign is composed of two parts, the signifier and the signified. And when you look at the relationship between the signifier and the signified, the relationship is arbitrary. Not just the relationship between the signifier and the signified is arbitrary, but also the meaning is also arbitrary. Okay, again, let me give you another example that you would like. YouTube logo. Okay, now you all know YouTube logo because many of you are YouTubers, and your classes are also in YouTube. So when you get to understand the YouTube logo, the signifier, what is the signifier there? The red color with a play button, that is the signifier. And what is the signified? The concept that emerges in your mind, the videos. Maybe it is nowadays, it is the video lessons, because every day you have to sit from 9:30 to 11:30 to watch these videos. So the first thing that comes to your mind when the word YouTube is uttered would be what? The concept it stands for, the videos that you watch. Okay, so when these two mix together, when the signifier and the signified mix together, then you have the sign. Okay, so YouTube logo and the concept to which it stands for, when it comes together, you have the sign, the signifier and the signified. Okay, so what is this YouTube logo? Again, YouTube logo is a cultural construct. Who constructed it? The people, the developers, they constructed it. right? And to a person who has no idea of internet, let alone a computer, they would not be able to understand what YouTube is, right? So it is a community, and only a community who shares the same ideas and thoughts will be able to understand it. So again, we can say that it is the relationship is arbitrary, it is a cultural construct. So Sisor says that no word can be defined keeping it separate from the related words. Now this is where I get back to the words, the examples that I told you in the beginning. The door, the wall, the building, the pile of bricks, teeth, eyes, your organs, all that. I told you that the component or the constituent parts are subservient to the whole. Any entity, it lacks significance on its own. It can be understood only in relation to other entities, right? So that's what we are going to come to. So to Sisor, no word can be defined on its or keeping it separate from the related word. Every word depends on the synonymous or the similar related words to get a perfect meaning. So when we say mansion, we make a comparison with the synonyms of a dwelling. Mansion is a dwelling, right? A dwelling place. So we give various houses to get the idea or to get the meaning of mansion. Like you have palace, bungalow, then you have a villa, a hut, a flat, etc. So we understand mansion when we compare different types of houses. They become a structure: house, hut, mansion, palace, flat, etc. So it becomes a structure. From that you understand what a mansion is, how they are different, how they are related to various other houses or various other structures of houses, and how they are different from it. So a word cannot be understood in isolation. We have to understand it, or we can only understand it in relation to various other words in that structure. Okay, so here he emphasizes that the meanings of the words are relational. This means that no word can be defined in isolation from other words. The definition of any given word depends upon its relationship with adjoining words. Okay, he also further states that the relationship between, or you understand a word only in relation to its opposites. For example, how do you understand day? You understand day from its absence of what is called night, right? Because it is bright and not like night. So you understand words also from its opposites, its binary opposites. Okay, you understand a woman because she is different from a man. You understand a man because a man is different from a woman, right? Then hot and cold. So you understand a word in relation to its opposite. Okay, so I hope that much is clear to you. So if this is clear to you, we shall slowly move to deconstruction, because we don't have anything to do with, or we don't have structuralism in this semester. Of course, you will have to understand a few important structuralists, Ferdinand De Sisor, and also we'll be coming to Levi-Strauss very soon. So these two important structuralists are to be kept in mind. Other than that, you will be studying Sisor in detail. The same thing that I told you, the sign and the sign, the signifier and the signified, in detail in the next semester. Structure is everything. According to them, no entity has its significance, an entity can have its significance only in relation to other entities. Okay, you can only have if you relate it. It is the meaning of a word is relational. You can only define a word with its adjoining words, and also you can understand a word better from its opposite. Okay, so the basic unit of a language itself are words. Okay, and when you analyze a poem, how do you analyze a poem? You analyze the structure of the text. You analyze it, or you see how this text is structured, and then the genre to which it belongs, and so on. The formalists, if everything was a text, if they were looking for everything within the text, the structuralists were also doing the same, but again they were slowly moving. The more they were looking into the text, the more they were moving away from the text. So each unit, each structure, they study the structure in which they form a part of the whole structure, a bigger structure. They look at a word not from a small angle, not from the word as such, but they look at the word from a bigger structure, a bigger or a wider structure in which they are a part of. For instance, I told you, it's not just, if you are to look at the formalists would be looking at the blocks, the building, the bricks, and the cement and the sand. Okay, whereas the structuralists, when they look at these, they would be looking, of course, at the cement, the bricks and the sand, but they look at it in relation to the whole structure to which it becomes a part of. In relation to that, they try to see the structure.